I think we've got this one nailed. How to be a complete bastard next
on our Sinclair.
Shut up, Aaron.
Oh, yeah. What a complete bastard.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of our Sinclair. I'm your good buddy, your good pal, Amigo Aaron. Today, joined by quite the bastard indeed. It's the Brent.
It's true.
Yeah.
Since I do know my father.
You know, we should actually, so do I. We probably should have prefaced this by saying we're going to be saying the word bastard a lot today.
I'm not. I don't say things
like that. And there's a reason for that, because we're going to be reviewing how to be a complete bastard.
You know what?
What's that?
YouTube monitors the first 30 seconds of a video, and if it has too much cursing in it, it gets the axe.
Is bastard a curse word? It's sort of like ass. It's sort of like there's a...
I would say that is cursing, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because there's much worse, though, is my point. But I mean, I bet this was shocking back in the day when it came out, but not so shocking now.
Let's see, when was this published? You got a guess? You got a thought?
Oh, I would say probably 87.
You're wrong, like 86. My goodness. Did you even research this topic? What a loser.
Listen, I own the book, so I don't have to research. Just pick it up, brother. So, before we get into the game this week, entitled How to Be a Complete Bastard, I want to stick around here for a minute and talk about how we got here.
Well, when a mommy and a daddy love each other very much.
So, would you stop?
Oh.
So, there was a game called How to Be a Complete Bastard, but it's not this game. Did you know there was a board game based on this book as well?
I did not.
There is. And there's a book. And the book is this. If you're watching at home, I'm holding it up. It's How to Be a Complete Bastard by Adrian Edmondson. We're going to get into Abe here in a minute. But this is a book. It's a wacky book. Once you turn to a page, there's nothing filthy on it. I should probably look before I just randomly flip through a page. But this is a book, ignore that where Abe gives you lesson by lesson on how to do nasty, horrible things to people. As you go on to listen to his lessons on how to be a bigger bastard than you are currently. That's your goal. And so what would make you write such a book? Well, of course, it's a comedy book, and if you know anything about Abe Edmondson, you can understand how someone would write on this. The fellow who wrote this book or co-wrote it, Adrian Charles Edmondson, age 66 as of today, and he is a British, almost like a Renaissance man, if you would. He's not only is he an actor, a live performer, he's also been in a band. He's also done music videos. He's a writer. He's done a little bit of everything. The first time that Abe came onto my radar would have been when MTV America started showing The Young Ones. The Young Ones is I've come to find out is a pretty popular and looked on quite nicely British television comedy from the early 80s. About 4 college students that live in a flat, they're going to school, and they have wacky adventures. This was the height of what I would call experimental comedy, and I mean, it was a crazy experiment where the show was based around these 4 different students, one of which was Abe Edmondson as Vivian. Vivian was sort of like an anti-establishment punk
dude,
guy, but he was, all the guys in the house were goofy. They had a hippie in there. You had Neil with the hippie. You had Rick, who was sort of let's say a wannabe activist.
Yeah.
Also a little weasel. Then you had Mike, who was the sort of the smart guy.
He was the straight guy.
But he was also the guy looking to get ahead. He was trying to score with women all the time. Vivian was just like a violent maniac.
Yeah.
He would be the guy that would just hit you in the face with a crooked bat. He would hit you upside the head with, or ram your head through a wall. He might ram his own head through a wall. He did all kinds of crazy stuff. This is the first time I saw Abe Edmondson, and I instantly fell in love with this show because I'd never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
It was a show that was insane. I mean, the plots there were barely plots to any of the shows. And normally it'd be stuff like, there's one where they go to be on a quiz show. Well, a whole show is them just screwing around for half the show because no one remembered to tell them they were on a quiz show. Then there's a little part where they get to the show, and then there's the final part where they're on the show. But that's the whole show. And that's probably the most structured one. By the way, the best one too, in my opinion.
Didn't they have one where they were fighting the cable company?
No, that was the TV. That was the TV license man.
Yeah. And
so at one point, Vivian is told to eat the telly, and he does. Then they plug it in. He gets all lit up.
Yeah, that's the one I remember of over all of them.
There's one where they have a flood. You know, there's all kinds of guest stars on there. They had to get more money for the show. They made the show. BBC they said it was a variety show to get more money. They said they'd have bands on there all the time.
Yep.
Including Motorhead was on there. Madness was on there. But some really good bands. One week they had a lion tamer on for about 5 seconds for no good reason. So it was a show. People would fall through the ceiling. Stuff would blow up. It was insane. So as a kid, I was like, man, this is gold. I loved it. And then MTV started showing Bad News, which was their band. They would be on. There was I think it was called Comedy Strip Presents, something like that, where they'd show little singular things in Bad News, which is Vivian's band. The Young Ones basically had a little band. A lot of those guys have been in the top 10. In the UK, there's all kinds of weird stuff that makes the top #1 on the charts, and that was just another one of the things. Something else a lot of people don't know. When Young Ones was on, it was a lot of young comics on there, including Jennifer Saunders and Don French of French and Saunders fame. And of course, Jennifer Saunders went on to do Ab Fab, Absolutely Fabulous, which was a big show in America and over in the UK. And a lot of people don't know Adrian Episode is married to Saunders. I guess they're still married. They were, as of the writing of what I read, they were still married. They've been married since '85. He was on there one time, and but here's something you didn't know. Have you ever seen Absolutely Fabulous, the show?
Not that I recall.
Never heard of that one? Well, he actually co-sings the theme, which I always thought. So he's quite a Renaissance man. To sum up, though, after he left the Young Ones, he did a series of wacky shows with his comedy partner Rick Mayall, who's also outstanding, who also played Rick in Young Ones. And they did a show. They did a act called The Dangerous Brothers. They went on tour live with this. They also did a show called Bottom. But the Dangerous Brothers did a bit on how to be a complete bastard on the show. And so, from what I read, that is what birthed this book, How to Be a Complete Bastard. The book. Someone thought it would be a good comedy bit, and they did it, and it was. And so, when he released the book, it did quite well. It was surprisingly well. And so after it came out, it had a sequel book. It had another book that came out that was sort of like the counterpoint to it. So it did pretty well, and that's what spawned on these other books. Now, before we get off of Abe, here's a couple wackies I didn't know. According to Wiki, Abe had a part in Star Wars Last Jedi. I don't know what part that would have been.
Sure, why not?
He also, get this, he played in the Rocky Horror, and this is last year. He was in Rocky Horror Picture Show live, and he played Brad Mage as the straightest guy in the show. Which
doesn't make any sense at all.
I would love to see that. And get this is my favorite one. Last year, so this is just a few months ago as we record this, he played Ebenezer Scrooge in the Christmas Carol at the Royal Shakespeare Theater.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
It's amazing to me that a guy like that can perform at the Royal Shakespeare Theater.
Oh, no, I can completely see that.
Apparently, he can. Well, enough about Abe. Let us get into the game, How to Be a Complete Bastard. Okay, so here's this wacky game. How to Be a Complete Bastard. Released in 1987.
Yes.
And originally published by Virgin Games. Created by Elliot Gay, who worked on a Charlton match fishing game, a game called Scruples, A Question of Scruples. A game where you show jump horses. That one might be kind of fun.
Sure, why not?
Son of Blagger. It also was worked on by someone named Alistair Watt, who also worked on that Scruples game. This is for the 48K Specky. It's a one-player game with the usual control accoutrement, and this originally sold for £7.95. This was also released on the Amstrad CPC and the C64, so this is one that got a wide release, if you can believe that. I can't help it.
Yeah, I can believe that.
I don't know. To me, it seems totally wacky.
It's just like licensing a television show or movie.
I suppose so. I guess the book was of such was bought so much they went ahead and just went. And they thought it'd be a good hit. I should also mention at some point this also was released on the cover disc of a magazine. So that's a very UK thing to do. Yeah, well, I guess it was well into the run.
Oh, of course.
So, in this game, presumably you play Abe as you.
Yeah, the character has that hair flare.
Yeah, and you go, and the opening screen is actually pretty good. It looks sort of like the book. It's really very similar to the.
Yeah, it's okay.
To the book, and so you play Abe, and your goal is to get rid of all the people at this party. Abe mentions in the docs that, like, it's easy to get into all these parties, and so once you get in there, then you've got to get rid of everybody so you can just wreck the party and have the whole house to yourself. That's the plot of the game. And it's funny. I will say, if you read the book, I don't know if you looked at the instructions for this.
Oh, I know.
They're pretty fun. They're pretty funny. And they are written to be read by someone who would have enjoyed the book. So there's a lot going on. We're going to try to explain what exactly you're looking at, because for a game like this, there's a complicated front end on this thing. So the screen is split into multiple parts. On the top of the screen that covers the middle of the screen, you'll see two long panels. These are multiple views of what you're seeing in the game, okay? So it's your character down the hall. Now, what you're seeing is actually, the views are the same from different angles. So you're seeing Abe.
Okay, you're doing a horrible job.
Well, you try, maybe you may not even know what this is.
No, I'm very much
go ahead. You tell him.
Imagine you are in a room and you have a camera setting on the west wall and a camera setting on the south wall.
Yeah.
Those are the two views that you see.
Right.
So if you are moving towards the west camera, it looks like you're moving across the screen on the south camera. That's how it works.
It's very goofy.
It's very good. It's very
innovative.
good.
And you can also, if you hit the 1 or 2 button, you can actually
never do that.
No, but what all it does is it changes. It changes the view.
It puts the camera at north, east, south, west.
No. It just moves. Basically, you can make the top and the bottom look the same. You can basically It just switches them in. It doesn't change anything else.
Yeah.
This is unusual, and I eventually got sort of used to it. I guess it helps. Does it help?
No, this is what it does. It makes the rooms, which are a 2D plane, feel large.
Yeah.
It makes it feel like you are moving actually into the depth of the room and to the left and right of the room. If you don't understand what you're looking at, it is incredibly confusing.
Yeah. And
this setup is way too deep for a game like this.
Yeah, so you've got those two long panels so you can see what's going on, okay? Yeah. On either side of that, you've got 2 meters that run up the side of the screen. Your drunkometer and your smellometer, okay? Now, your drunkometer will go up if you're drinking, and there are several opportunities in the game to drink. Your smellometer will go up if you take laxative, for example, because this game has a button that allows you to fart, because that's what you do, all right? At the bottom, or underneath the meters and the two screens are another meter, your wee-o-meter and your fartometer. The wee-o-meter tells you when you need to go pee, basically. Use the latrine. The fartometer tells you how much fart you can expel. There's no easy way to describe this. This is what it is.
And what these actually do is you're trying to get rid of guests, and farts will clear a room, and sometimes you need to do that.
Yeah. Also, it's just, you've got to, I guess they had to put a fart button in just cuz. That's funny. And then, amazingly, underneath, and then there's a score between these 2 meters, and then your score is in bastard points. And at the bottom is the logo of the book or the game, and as you do well in the game, it fills up.
As you clear people out of the house.
Yeah, and so it fills up, and when you've filled up all the letters, you've cleared the house out and you win. This game does have an ending, if you can believe it. That's a lot going on one screen. And when you first look at it, you're like, oh my God.
When you first look at it, you're like, oh, this is like a spy versus spy thing.
That's right. It's not.
And it is not.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does give you a sense of depth you would not normally get.
Yes, 100%.
I don't know if this is I don't know if this was the best use of real estate, but it doesn't matter. So, as we mentioned, your job is to go through this house and clear out party guests. This is a pretty big mansion with an upstairs and a downstairs. You can go outside, and as you go through the rooms, you're going to come across cabinets, refrigerators, umbrella stands, stuff laying on the floor, stuff in chest of drawers, all kinds of places you can open and you can grab stuff. You have a 2-item inventory. So you can hold 2 items, and you can, when you go to an empty spot where there's nothing and you hit your fire button, it gives you the choice to look through your pockets, see what you want to do. This game is very free form. Okay, as far as I can tell, there's no time limit, and there's no correct order to do things, as far as I can tell.
Well,
I mean, you have to get stuff to do the outcome. But for example, you can put the crazy glue on the toilet at the beginning of the game, where you can put it on there, 10 minutes into the game.
My understanding, and I didn't do a huge deep dive into this, and the people who were talking about it could literally just be wrong.
Yeah.
But there are certain setups in the game that if you don't do it, I'm not saying you have to do it at this right precise moment, but there are times when there are maybe 4 people in the room instead of 3. And if you don't clear that entire room when there are 4 people, it's hard, if not impossible, like a soft lock situation, to actually complete the game.
Really?
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
I just saw people talking about it.
Because I can tell you, neither one of us came close to clearing it out.
No, and I can tell you why. This game has one. Are we getting into the flaws?
Well, no, let's get into the actual. So here's the way it works. Okay, for example, we need to get rid of a guest. And by the way, the guest doesn't matter which guest you're after.
No,
the key element is you corner them.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you'll do.
Interact with them.
Let's say, for example, that Aid finds a can of paint, okay, which is in the game. He can go find a guy or a girl in the corner of the room, and he can move up on them where they can't move. And then once he's up there, he can hit his button, and then the option to do something to that person would show up.
Yeah, you interact with the person.
It wouldn't have been there before you cornered them.
Right.
And once you corner them, you can for example, you'll say dump paint on head. You can do it, and that guy's gone.
Yeah.
You've humiliated him. That's the whole goal of this game.
Yeah.
To humiliate, bully, and fluster everyone at the party. So some people you hit in the face with pie. Some people you have them walk on, like, I think it was like, what was it you glued to the floor? There was like tacks or something.
Yeah,
no,
the tacks are on the seat, I think.
Sometimes you don't do anything to people. You just set up a trap. Like there's one place where you glue that stuff on the floor. There's the super glue in the toilet. There's stuff like that. A lot of the stuff you do is viciously cruel.
Yeah.
Cruel stuff. Like, for example, you can put makeup on a guy, right? You can find makeup, and then once you put the makeup on him, all the other people at the party beat him up.
Yeah.
He's gone. Another one, you can put perfume on a dude, and all the other people beat him up. Now, you keep in mind, this was a game of the mid-'80s, and the one thing about the book, and the game has this in common with it, is that you've got humor. Then you've got sort of biting humor, and then you've got humor that's right up on the bar of common decency or like acceptability. This is that humor that's on the other side of the bar with barely a tippy toe still on the bar.
This game is the modern day equivalent it's just a prank bro.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this is.
Yeah, it's a cruel, and the book is exactly the same way. It's really a cruel. It's not how to be a real cool guy or how to be a sly. You know, it is what it is. And so when you go through this game and you're farting on people and you're dumping crap on people's heads and you're getting them beat up or humiliating them, that's the game. Yeah. You could also go to, like, for example, the fridge is full of beer. Now, one thing I learned early on is you can drink this beer and you can build up your drunkometer because you need to keep your drunkometer and your smellometer higher. So go in there and build up your drunkometer. But if one of the options is just drink all the beer, you'll die.
Yeah, they just kill you.
So you can be killed in this game too. And there are a couple of different ways to die. There's one really wacky thing. I don't know if you did this. There's an umbrella stand right at the beginning of the game. You can go over and get an umbrella out of it. And if you open the umbrella, you basically turn it like a washing machine or something, and you're moving around. Did you ever do that?
No, I didn't do that.
You actually, the rest of the game, you walk around and you're moving you look like a washing machine or an oven or something. Because it says that's bad luck to open this indoors. It's not kidding. You literally turn into like an oven, which was that was kind of nutty. Yeah, you can imagine my surprise when that. Yeah. I was like, what the heck? But it was funny. So there are some things you combine together to make certain pranks work or do certain things. Like at one point, he has to bake a pie. He has to get pudding powder out of a shelf and go over to. So there are some things you can combine. Now, with all that said, did I figure this out on my own because I'm a genius? No. Did I figure out a couple things because I got lucky? Most of it, though, I had to glean from trying to watching walkthroughs and reading and stuff because it's so abstract. You know, and also I didn't understand what the game was. Once I understand what the game was, it was a little bit easier. Because all you've got to do is corner a sucker, and if you find glue or paint something, just dump it on them, and then they're gone. So then you get more points. You get more bastard points after you do this. Yeah, it's an interesting game. I saw someone run through this entire game in I think it was like 16 minutes. Yeah. But I mean, you're not going to. It reminds me of some of the other ZX games we played, but it's really different in a lot of ways. I mean, it's an odd game. I don't hate it. It sort of meets the criteria of what they were going for, I think. But I guess if I bought this and I paid $10 for it, or got it for free on a magazine, I might kind of dig it. What did you think about it?
Okay, let's get the good things out of the way real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. The concept of how you move around the room is brilliant. I don't know if other ZX Spectrum games use this setup, but having a east camera and a north camera, or a west and a south, whatever you want to think about it, and having the room have depth was awesome.
It's a thing that why is it here? Because that's like. Who came up with that?
Now, if you just turn on the game, it's going to be confusing.
Yeah, they should have labeled it or something. I wish there was a way to,
But once you understand how it works, and it's going to take a few minutes. It definitely is.
Yeah. I had all kinds of trouble figuring it out for the longest time.
Because you'll be stuck in two rooms forever until you realize the depth thing.
Yeah. And you have to go when you're going into the depth, or out of the depth, you have to go there it's not like you're instantly there.
No, you don't. You have to look at both screens.
You have to hold down your button until your guy's fully in there.
No. But I can already tell where you messed up, Aaron.
I didn't mess up.
Yes, you did. When you are pressing a direction to go north and south.
Yeah.
You don't watch your bottom screen, you watch your upper screen because you actually see your guy moving left or right.
Right, but I mean, it's realistic. It's not like in most games you go to another room and you pop in. This one, it takes 4 or 5 steps.
But it makes sense. The concept of the game for me is pretty dumb. I don't like this type of humor. This is too lowbrow for me. And it's not like I'm some kind of super genius when it comes to comedy, but this is a step below where I want to live. But that is not the game's biggest sin. The game's biggest sin, by far, is the precision needed to interact with items. It wants you to be in the exact right spot, pressing against the item and hitting a button to get the prompt to come up. And when you miss the prompt, because some things you can interact with, right? You can interact with the trash can. And you're wiggling, you're pressing different buttons, trying to line it up so you're going to get that trash can prompt. And every time you hit the button, he checks his pockets. Hit the button, he checks his pocket. Hit the button, he checks his pocket. And it takes away from the fun of the game.
It'd been better if there was just a check your pocket button and it didn't do that by default.
Or something needed to be
I understand.
different.
Yeah, it happened to be a lot. And you're right. You have to be right up on stuff. And since the rooms have depth, sometimes, for example, if there's a table in the room, you could go in front of the table or behind the table.
Yes.
Sometimes that can get you where you're like, where is this thing? How do I get over to it?
Yeah. And unfortunately, you spend so much time and energy and focus working with trying to get the items to interact with everyone else that by the time you start making things happen, you're done. You don't want to play anymore. And it's unfortunate because the layout of this game, if they would have had less items, and because the game, the screens are littered with stuff. Pictures, tables, trees, doorways, baskets, trash cans,
there's counters, there's couches, bookshelves. Yeah.
And when you have that much stuff that you can interact with, and every single thing is a headache to interact with, you just don't want to play anymore. And that's what eventually, I died a few times, I drank all the beer and I died, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I quit playing because I was so sick of wiggling in front of a trash can for 45 seconds at a time, trying to get an interaction to get an item that now I don't know what it's for. So now I have to run against all these other items or all these other objects and try to get them to interact so I can use what I've gotten. It's just unfortunate that they didn't have more room that you could hit that stuff. But the game obviously was not directed towards me. I liked Young Ones, but this is not my type of comedy. The mechanics of the game, though, the visual walking around mechanics are so good that I recommend checking this out. Because if there are other games that use this mechanic, I would love to see them. I would love to know about them. They are that good. They are really, really solid. But the game overall,
it's an interesting game. First of all, put yourself. You're a kid in school in the UK.
All right.
You're 14, 15 years old.
Ooh, all right.
You get this for 10 pounds, or $10, 7, 8 pounds. All right. This would probably be quite a hoot. You get your buddies over. You laugh at it. You're too young.
No, because the problem, yes, if I could just make the comedy happen, I guarantee stupid young me would have had fun with this. But that's the problem. You can't just make the comedy happen.
They were more patient than you were.
No,
they were.
It has nothing to do with
I didn't get that upset about that part. It's the thing that got me more than that was just getting around until I learned how to do that. There is a brilliance in it. It is a strange thing. I like the many options you get. When you pick an item, you don't have to pick it up. Like, you can throw it.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff you can eat it, which sometimes it'll kill you. You can smash stuff. Like, you can just randomly it's just like chaos. I like the option to do that. It's fun.
Yeah.
I want to throw the disco album, or I want to throw the hammer. I want to smash the ice.
Yeah, it's fun to see what things do. Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of exploration in it, and which is fun. And overall, it was sort of what I thought it was. It was actually easier to get into than I thought it would be. This is about my level of interaction.
Oh, I know it is. This is about where you are.
So, there were some irritating things. And one thing that would have helped on the two screen things, if Aid was a different color from everyone else.
That would have helped.
Because you could have singled him out on the two screens, and that would have gone a long way.
You definitely can lose yourself in the crowd.
Yeah, you can blend in quite a bit in this game. With all that said, Brent, I didn't hate it. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was an okay game.
I didn't hate it. I was actually very impressed with it.
I'll
never play it again.
magazines of the day were not as kind as say I am, because they didn't like it as much as me.
Their checks probably didn't clear. That's why.
They gave this a score on 7 reviews from different magazines, a 65%. Not that good.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's a good score. It depends. Just like, man, I hate talking about scoring because some people use the whole 100 points, and like crap games are actually 3s and decent games are actually 6s. And when you look back at old scores, you never know how they judge.
Yeah.
So maybe a 6 was a fine game, or maybe 6 was a dumpster fire if it's IGN.
Javisoff in the chat just brought up a game, and I like the comparison. He mentioned that he preferred School Days. School Days and this game aren't totally dissimilar. School Days is another game. Now, School Days had a more rigorously enforced scheduling and the plot. There were things you needed to do, but there was also stuff where you could just screw around, mess with people, and hose people, start fights, whatever. So there is something there. I'd say, School Days was a much more involved game than this, but there is a similarity there. I looked at our Discord to see what kind of action we got there. So I'll start off with, right out of the gate, Mr. Dave 6309 says, so far, very strange. Need to figure this one out. He says, hey, if I'm doing poorly in the game, does this make me a good person? Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
So Pajako here, man, he really had something to say about this one. Pajako6502 says, I remember this game being quite a big deal at the time because it was Ade Edmondson and had a swear word in the name. So I guess that answers that question. It tries to be a Dizzy-like adventure game, but it's lacking any real puzzle element, as you can seemingly use most of the items on any poor, unsuspecting soul at the party. A map system is unique, but really just overcomplicated for what the game needs, and movement is very slow because depending on the direction you need to move in, you're always walking from one side of the screen to the other. The exploration and experimentation of items can be quite fun, but the act of actually trying to pin victims down to prank them is a chore, and lining up exactly with the doors to walk through and hoping someone isn't blocking your way just becomes a little tiresome. That's what Brent was talking about. All I can say is that this is definitely a game of its time and could be interesting, but strip away the license, there isn't much there. I didn't hate or love the game, and it was all a bit meh. 5 out of 10.
Aaron, before you go on, I want to point you towards chat. Happy Cody says that if you find a computer in the game and you reset it, it actually resets the real life spectrum that you're playing it on.
Interesting. That's a good tip. Good. Thank you, Happy. Will Broker, our good pal Will, hopped in. He says, when I was 13 or 14, The Young Ones was the funniest thing on television, and The Young Ones book was the most hilarious, most daring, naughtiest, and rudest reading material I ever owned. How to Be a Complete Bastard is clearly a kind of spin-off, using the Ade Edmondson persona he developed as Vivian on The Young Ones and transferred to his next show with Rick Mayall, Bottom, which is a great show. No doubt I'd owned that book. No doubt if I'd owned that book, I doubt my parents would have bought me anything with a swear on the title. I'd have found this equally hilarious. As a computer adaptation, it's bizarre. The programmers worked on other straightforward and successful games, but here they seem to have struggled with the concept and resorted to a walk around and collect items arcade adventure. This format works with the Wally Week series and Dizzy, where the puzzles are clever and the graphics are cute and colorful. Here the visuals are confusing and unappealing, with what looks like one generic type of yuppie guy and one type of woman and your similarly drawn protagonist wandering around a plain and basic house set. The screen layout adopts an absurd and yet surely unique approach with a front-on and side-on view at the top and bottom of the screen. Again, a split screen with monochrome graphics works in some contexts like two-player spy versus spy, but there's no reason for the twin perspectives. Tyrion the Nog and Dundark demonstrated a far superior and more elegant way of navigating 3D space through a two-dimensional display. What's left is the daring rudeness and vulgarity, and what might have tickled me as a younger teenager understandably leaves me cold as a middle-aged dad. My little boy might love it. The jokey captions on screen are sadly and unforgivably often spelled wrong And the violent pranks you have to play, many of them on women, that now seem disturbingly misogynistic. There are many games on the spectrum that stand the test of time. This one reminds me that the computer and its culture was largely aimed at 14-year-old schoolboys, and I think it's one of those examples that can be left in the past. Lastly, Paul, a.k.a. Hermsky, chimes in. Oh, wait, there's two more. Paul says, it's a complete firm bastard of a game. Enough said. And Lord Soup writes in, gimmick game, fun for an hour, but it was a cash in. So it looks like everybody sort of is left the same way we were. Now, I mentioned that this was released on multiple systems. I've queued up here if you're watching at home, and I'll describe it to everybody else. This is the Amstrad version of this, which is, of course, in color, sort of. In more color.
More color, yeah.
And so, looking at this, the Brent, I'm sure it's the first time you've had a look at this. Mm-hmm. Do you think having more robust color palette would make this game more playable as you see it now?
Because you move slower in the room. Yeah, I can already see, just in the 4 or 5 seconds, that's what I instantly notice. That's the only thing I would care about. Is you move too slow in the Amstrad version.
It's funny. It is funny that the Amstrad version does seem to be a little slower.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I mean, it's literally identical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's identical.
They just added colors to the ZX.
That happens sometimes, though, as it were. So that was How to Be a Complete Bastard. A game of its time. Don't let this turn you off of AID's other fine programs. And this game might appeal to some people that just want a hilarious return to the middle teenage years, but I'm not sure it's something for us adults. Maybe it is, I don't know. So, with all that said, Brent, I want to thank everyone that supports our Sinclair, all our Patreons, all of our Twitch followers. It's you folks that keep us going. We really appreciate you investing in the show. And we hope to keep the ball rolling with some other games. This one was pretty edgy for the boat. I was surprised this one got through the boat censorship. You notice he's not here.
He's so mad he quit the show.
Yeah, there you go. So, with all that said, Brent, let's see what we've got in store for us next week.
Oh, I can't wait to play this. It's going to be awesome when I get... Oh!
That's right.
That's so good.
It's Archon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tip my hand.
I might come back.
I'm the biggest Archon fan walking.
Cow.
I like Archon too. I add that more. And I think you are in the same boat as I am. But we both like Archon.
Yeah, I might have to kill John and take his spot.
I'll admit to you,
Holy cow, that's such a good game.
I've not played Archon on the ZX.
I haven't either.
You know, so it should be an interesting look at what the ZX could do. I got a feeling it's going to handle it pretty well. The brand.
Oh boy, I don't know. So wow.
You know, before we go, you don't get to do a lot of ZX.
I don't
action.
No, and it's my own fault. Obviously, I have access to this to emulate all this incredible ZX software. My problem is I have very little time to play emulated games, right? I have my Saturday morning time when I play modern games, and I have my ARG time, which that can be anything, right? But when I sit down and I'm just playing games of the past, I just always go to the arcade. That's where I grew up. That's where that little happy place is. I need to start playing some of these more Spectrum Amstrad type things.
Our problem, because I've got a similar issue, it's the fact that we've got an attention span tuned to the arcade game. We grew up in the arcade.
Well, no, I don't know. For you, yes, that's exactly what it is. For me, I don't think that's what it is at all.
Well, I do have a soft spot for games like Archon, and I'm looking forward to this. So that means next month, me and the boat will be tipping into Archon, Battle Between the Darkness and the Light. Should be a lot of fun. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us this week. We will catch you on the flip side. Until next week, and next month, I should say, rewind tape.
And press play.
You knew it. Good for you. Bye-bye.